Let's kick off with how did you get into your type of coaching? What type of coaching is that? How did you make the transition into it?
Yeah. So I suppose I've been obviously at coaching for a while, like even though maybe it's something a lot of people don't know, but like that's kind of what I started out as a personal trainer, but then went back to college and kind of used that to get me through college. Had my own classes during college and studied and etc. But going through that period of working as on the gym floor, you're kind of like, there's not really much of a career here with this, is there? But after I finished college, the idea was go start an online coaching business with another guy. Coming out of college at 28 years of age, you're like, I better make some money. So jumped straight into a career into like sales engineering. But, doing a few years of that, you kind of realize, there's that itch to get back and do what you're actually passionate about. Because I have a degree in health science and physiology, I have a degree in human nutrition, and obviously like PT cert. So that was obviously one of those things, me sitting in an office over in London in a sales meeting being like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, this is, I don't think this is for me, like, but granted, like I still powered through, and I think you can learn a lot by working in those type of jobs. Like, you can learn how to properly grind, you can learn how to organize yourself a little bit. And I think that's where a lot of my kind of coaching style came from, because you will see people within that world, within the corporate world, sales positions, they're just, it's dog eat dog. It's like, you got to go hard if you want to make money, if you want to get to the top. But what sacrifice do they make? Like, it's always their health. You know what I mean? Boys stop going to the gym, stop looking after themselves. Alcohol becomes a problem on the weekends because you're trying to obviously grind it out Monday to Friday. The crack, and then you're just trying to get that release over the weekend. And I think seeing all that, I was like, I can't keep going down this route. Like, this is not kind of where I want to go. But I was fortunate enough. I'm not sure if you know this. Do you know Gavin Meaton? He's Donegal man. I
know of him, or maybe we've crossed paths or something. Once you mentioned his name, there was kind of like a highlight there, but
he's like a men's coach as well, and I actually knew him when I was in college. So he was starting out as a personal trainer, and I was kind of doing my own classes. So we would just chat about general business stuff, whatever, and obviously I went off and whatever. But we reconnected in, I think it was November 2021. So it's just kind of post-COVID. And obviously I think COVID opened up a massive world for online for so many people. And I think so many people are still missing out on the opportunities there. But I was kind of looking at that going, there might be an opportunity here to kind of put my feet back into it. But I kind of knew I had to sort my shit out first. So I kind of got in contact with Gavin. I think it was July 2021. And just said, look, I know what the crack is here. I know how to get into shape and stuff like that. But I just need accountability. And I need someone to kind of give me a bit of a fucking guidance. I was kind of being the boy who needed to become the man, if you know what I mean. Like, just listen, get your shit together. Let's get this done. So we went at it for about 3 or 4 months training. I think I dropped like 7 kilos or something like that. So I got into really good shape. And then that was kind of the motivation of like, fuck, should I get back into this? Like, because it's not like I didn't have their credentials or anything like that, And I remember even Gavin being like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? You have all people, you have all the certs that you need, and you have the experience. You just need to kind of get back into it and see what the crack is. So it was kind of him that kind of gave me that kind of, I suppose, a little bit of belief, like, look, you are able to do this. And then I think it came into October or something of that year, and some woman just called my mobile number. This is like random as fuck. This is middle-aged woman who was struggling with kind of like menopause and stuff like that. And she's like, I found your number on Facebook. And I was like, how the fuck? I haven't worked and I haven't used Facebook in 3 years, because I was like 3 years into my sales career at that stage. And she's like, look, I need some help. Your old page there showed some good information. Can you help me? And then I was like chatting to Gavin. I was like, what the fuck do I do here? And he's like, what do you mean? Just take her on as a client. Like, you know what I mean? Just do a bit of work with her on the weekends. It's fine. Like, so she ended up doing really, really well. I think she stayed with me for a couple of months, but she ended up doing very, very well. It was the same story that I see with a lot of people, busy professions, is just like being extremely busy, but then trying to bring that kind of all or nothing mindset into health and fitness, which you can't do it, because health and fitness is meant to improve the quality of your life, not add more stress to it. Like, so I suppose with her, it was very much kind of sitting down and going, cool, look, you've all this going on. You have a really important job. You're going through a massive hormonal shift. We need to look at like lifestyle factors here. We need to look at just improving your quality of life, such as sleep, getting your step count up, and then obviously tearing down the nutrition a little bit one by one without being too restrictive. Like, so she ended up getting really, really good results. And then I think it came to December, and Gavin was like, why don't you just fucking give this a go? Like, I was like, oh, I'm 30 now, I don't know. He's like, what are you on about, man? Like, get your fucking life together, you know? You just go hard and see what happens. Like, so then that was that. Just kind of put the foot down big time, like really, really hard. I transitioned jobs as well. I'd actually changed careers. I went into it's called like clinical support specialist. It's just a fancy word for saying you're going around as a kind of a sales rep for medical devices. But that job actually freed up a huge amount of time, because you'd have maybe weeks where you're doing 20 hours, but then you'd have weeks where you're doing 40 hours. It was a bit all over the place. So I was like, cool, I could just utilize this spare time by trying to make content and growing an audience and, you know, actually doing something that's worthwhile, as opposed to just relaxing or chilling out. And that's kind of when I started to put the head down with the content. I think it was like from January, you know, I was going pretty hard at it for a couple of months. And then I think then I started chatting to you then. I think we got chatting because obviously Claire wanted to go to DOE to do some teaching. But I can't remember when that was. It was early enough, like, because I remember hearing about you, and it's funny because I remember hearing about what you do, and I was like, this sounds like some kind of guru shit, like. But I didn't know what it was, and then me and you actually got chatting, and then you were kind of like, no, this is actually what I do. And I was like, okay, I have a lot going on here at the moment. I'm trying to do social media. I'm trying to start a part-time business, and I'm obviously have a full-time job. And my plan is to move to the UAE and go full-time with all this. And then I think that's how me and you got chatting then, wasn't it? We were just like, okay, well, here's what we can do. Let's start planning everything out. Because when you're trying to do all that, it's mentally, it's a ball ache. Like, you know what I mean? It's not easy. Like, you've so much coming in from different angles, and it's when priority comes to be actually important. Like, okay, is this actually important? Am I using my time correctly with this? And then obviously jumped on one of your programs, and then we kind of took it from there. I think a lot kind of fell into place with me, meeting Gavin, then meeting you, and me and you obviously had planned out the 6 months. We kind of did that whole letter thing where, like, this is what you're going to do each month. And then obviously I met Sean Casey, who helped me with the content, and then it just fucking blew up, like, you know. It was kind of like one thing after the next, but I think probably one of the best things I ever did was just like being able to reach out to people, invest in myself. Like, you know, like, you know, you hear people all the time like, oh, I'm not going to invest in myself, I'll try it myself. I'm like, how can you try something that you don't know how to do? Like, you know what I mean? Just pay the money from someone that maybe has done it, and then see what you can get out of it. I think I was fortunate enough that, yeah, I had a bit of savings and I was able to do that, and that obviously got me to where I want, you know, going from obviously working in a job that I wasn't too happy with, starting then my own online business, and then switching into a job that was less demanding. Obviously then being very motivated, putting in the hours with the content. The content was the fucking hardest thing, like, you know what I mean? Chatting to yourself, and, do you know what I mean, having Gavin and that on board, that was easy. Like, trying to make a reel at 10 o'clock after working a 12-hour day, and you're just like eyes falling out of your head, talking absolute shit.
I'm not interrupting you, like, because I was going to come in there about 10 times. There's things I wanted to ask you, but I was
sorry.
like, what were you doing in college till 28? I was kicked out of that by the age of 21. But the content, I remember one day working with you, and you're like, oh, I don't know why I don't know what, getting clients or whatever it was, and I had to look through your feed, and there was all these great recipe books or recipes and stuff like that. And I asked you, what do you do? And you said you're a PT. And I was like, I thought you were a chef. I was like, go take your top off and lift a few weights or something. Yeah. And you had this, you're like, oh yeah, I could go out to the garden, but there's weeds in the garden and the trees aren't trimmed. I was like, I don't think anyone's going to give a shit about the weeds in your garden if you can give me value on how to do an outdoor workout or whatever it was. And I think that you actually went and did that straight away, and that kind of got you a bit more traction. And because I remember when you did, like when we started talking about working with each other, I don't want to like kind of call you out here, but I think one of the things you did say is for me to have that recognition or to be successful, you had to have a certain amount of followers.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And
100%.
I kind of, that was kind of like a little of a red flag for me. I was like, look, if that's what you're looking to gain from this, I'm the wrong man. Like I'm like, people can buy followers in this day and age. Like that's unimportant to me. Like but then when I sat down and heard what you had to say, heard what your goals were, heard what was important to you, what your values were, and just a couple of those like mindset obstacles or barriers that you're facing, then it really clicked, because I resonated a lot with you. And then just from taking consistent action, you know, like I've rarely meet a person who's driven, but as a result of all your hard work and your drive, like your page actually did blow up. Like whether that's just how the cards felt or fell, or how just as a result of all your hard work or whatever it was, you actually got that goal on the way as a result of everything else that you were doing. Because one conversation that really sticks out to me about so we were just discussing, both maybe you as a PT and me as a mindset coach, life coach, whatever, and still to this day I personally don't like those terms. So I would nearly put a feeler out to people of what I could call this, because you know, back at home there's probably like a stigma, or because it's relevant, it's like it's in its infancy, this kind of, you know, this coaching style, it's in its infancy, but it's very important as well. So like if people don't know enough about it, like it's easier to kind of poke fun at it, or you know, like you said there earlier, guru. I'm not joking. I remember when I got on the call with you, I was like what, like I'm always open. Like I don't, you know, if someone has something to offer, I'm not going to sit there and take the piss out of them. I'm like, cool, what is it like? And if it's for me, it's for me. If it's not, it's not. I think it's a bit ignorant for someone to sit back who's no idea what they've done, like, you know what I mean? And I knew a little bit about your backstory, so I was like, look, it can't be that much wishy-washy, but I mean, the proof is there, like, and you know, we didn't cast any magic fucking spells or anything like that. Like, we sat down, we said, right, here's, like, and I generally was struggling. You knew I was obviously struggling, like, and it was more so like, when you're grinding, like, there's, you know, anyone who is pushing to get something that they really, really want, you hit a point where you're like, this is not going to happen. Like, I can't see this happening. And that's usually the point where you're not that far away from it. And I was kind of getting to that stage during the summer. I was like, fuck me, I'm doing 6 or 7 videos per week on top of a job, on top of this. But the one thing I was always doing was obviously like, I wasn't just going, oh, I'm not getting any views. I kept going, cool, how can I make it a little bit better? How can I make the video a little bit more engaging? What little tricks can I do to make it a little bit more appealing? Because I wasn't naturally good on the camera. And then obviously having you on board to be like, look, we're here at the moment. You need to stop thinking about this so emotionally, because that's where it was. It was all emotional thoughts, as opposed to like, logically, you were on like 1,000 followers last month. Now you're on 3,000. Does that not say something? And having someone remind you of, oh fuck, actually I forgot that happened, like, or even going through the process of during the summer and be like, yeah, I said I was going to go full time, and then when I did go full time, you're like, do you remember you said that, and now you're full time, like, and having a coach that can sit back and give you that kind of blueprint of, this is kind of how we should go about it, this is what makes sense, this is the things that we need to take off along the way, but also recognizing your wins along the way. Like, I'm terrible at that. I never sit back and go, Jesus, I did this, and then me and you be having a conversation, you'd be like, what the fuck's wrong with you, man? Like, look at everything that you've done. And I think that's where the benefit of coming in with someone like yourself, making you realize, fuck, there's a journey here, I have gone on it, and I have done quite well, and keeping you on track, because you can get lost in that. I see so many people, even at the moment, trying to make content, and they're just getting fed up. I'm like, you're at 2 weeks.
2 fucking weeks, man. It was 9 months before I got any traction on it. You know what I mean? And if you don't have someone in your corner to sit you down and go, listen, calm down a little bit, keep doing what you're doing, and trust the process, then it's going to be very, very hard to get to where you want to go. Like,
well, like you mentioned there, like, oh, you said, oh, I have my struggles. Now, anyone kind of listening to that would be like, oh my God, because that's the kind of preconceived idea that people have, that it's someone who's really struggling with their mental health or depression or something like that that comes to a coach. Yes, there's that element to it, of course there is, but it's like maybe the struggles you had were a bit different, like you said, emotional stuff that every man goes through at some stage, like whether you're in a relationship and you have to kind of keep that ticking over, you have your job, you have different types of stresses, like everyone's under some or carrying some sort of cross. Like, so whether you're struggling with just a little bit of stress or struggling with your time management, or it is maybe a deeper level of mental health stuff, like it's not just that like mental health state that coaches help you deal with. Like, you know, coaches help you get from A to B like a bus. Like in the dictionary, there's literally no definition for the coaching I do in the dictionary. There's coach as in football coach, or coach as in bus that takes you from A to B, and I'm more like a bus. It goes from A to B.
Maybe just describe, like, because obviously I'm not giving as much context, but just describe what it is that you do and how you bring someone through that process.
I wanted to touch on something that you said first, just on your side of things, because like you're on about consistency. Like one conversation that, because like you might have gotten overwhelmed on a few occasions, we had to reel you in because your progress and improvement was just going above and beyond, but people don't take that time to write down their wins each week, reflect on their week, reflect on their month, whatever it is, because they have that comparison, and that's probably down to social media and stuff these days. And you have to I'm not doing what they're doing, I'm not doing what they're doing. Like, but if you sit down and go, okay, where was I a month or a year ago, you'll be absolutely blown away by the progress that you've made. Now, you said to me, in terms of like your success, let's say you said, look, every single person, especially here in Dubai, maybe you see more of it, wants to be a PT, and they'll put up a few posts, they're a PT for 1, 2, 3 months, but then, like you said, when that day comes, why am I doing this? When things get hard, because whatever goal you're going after, if it's important enough or if it's big enough, you're inevitably going to hit that wall. Why the fuck am I doing this? Yeah. And that is, like you said, the green flag that I'm nearly there, but most people give up there. And like I often think about that, because like you kept thriving through that, and you got to the other side where you see other people who actually don't and fall back. And, you know, we're in February now, and, you know, yourself, New Year's resolutions and all this kind of carry on at the start of the year. But there's a thing called the neurological levels of change, where we discussed, and there's levels of change that you can go through. There's an actual framework. You can look it up, you can Google or whatever. But if you're going to make a long-lasting change, you have to be able to go through all those levels on that framework. Most people just go through step 1 or step 2 or level 1, level 2, and then revert back to old habits without knowing that framework. And like, you can see that in January. Like, I ran a 30-day challenge, and by day 5, like, majority of people pulled out, and their resolutions were no go because they didn't go to that level on those changes or knew how to take themselves through it. I guess it's kind of leaning in on not knowing why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Like, everyone in January, I want to have a six-pack,
why?
But why are you doing it? Because my mates have it, and be cool.
Like, constant on calls with people who want to lose weight. I'm like, why do you want to lose weight? Like, I just want to lose weight. I'm like, listen, I do 10 of these calls a week. Like, you need to know why you want to do this, because you ain't going to get through this. Like, you know what I mean? These programs, 3-4 months long, you need to have a reason why you're doing it. It can't just be, I want to lose weight. Like, what does that actually do for you? Like, why bother go through this? Because, you know, with anything, whether it's weight loss or whether you're trying to achieve a business goal or whatever, like, it's not easy. Like, and people sugarcoat, and even I do a bad job just my social media. Fat loss is easy, just follow these fucking principles. But it's not, like, you know, it's tough, it's hard. And you do have to go through those levels of changes along the way. And when you do get hit with a bump, you're like, cool, I'm doing this because I'm sick of how I look. I'm sick of how I feel. I can't go to a social situation without wearing a tight t-shirt even though I want to. You know what I mean? And these things, even though us being Irish, it's almost frowned upon. Like, how dare you be confident? It's like, fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you want to be confident? Why wouldn't you want to feel...
He needs to come down a peg or two.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I don't know what it's like in other cultures. Definitely that's an Irish thing. It's something that never bothered me, like, but it's something I see with a lot of my clients, because they are primarily Irish, UK based. And they're like, yeah, and I have to drag it out, and like, I just want to feel a bit more confident. And lads are even worse. Like, females are easier to talk to. Like, they're easier to open up. Lads are just like, oh yeah, I don't know. I'm like, man, what? Just spit it out. Like, you're not happy with yourself. You're not happy with how you look. Like, you know, like, it's fine. Like, you can change that. Do you know what I mean? That's the whole point of this. We can change that. We can get you through this, but you need to understand why you're doing this, because when the going gets tough, like, I'll remind you of why you're doing it, but you need to understand why you're doing it. It needs to be strong enough for you to get through that process, because this is not easy. Like, it'll be good for the first 2 weeks. You'll go through that Goldilocks period, but then it's work. You know what I mean? We'll give you breaks. We'll make it as easy as we possibly can. Now, that's the role of a coach. Same with your role. Our role is not to hold your hands and say, we're going to do this for you. Our role is to say, cool, here's a road, and we got to guide you through it without you taking any wrong turns along the way. And when you do take a wrong turn, we'll step in and go, well, that's what a coach should do. Say, look, this doesn't make sense because of X, Y, and Z. And here's your goals.
Well, I think it was fair to say, like, you know, it's two completely different avenues that we coach on. Like, you know, in my case, like, maybe I was facilitating sessions where you were actually coming up with your roadmap. You were coming up with your answers through maybe powerful questions that come from coaching styles. Like, but, you know, everyone kind of starts off with their goal.
Just what coaching do you do? Just so explain.
What am I saying? Like, men's coaching or life coaching or mindset coaching here?
I would call you like a mindset coach. I know maybe you don't like that name, or maybe that terminology that's associated, but for me, like there is a lot about mindset that people don't know, and neuroplasticity, etc. How you can get over certain things, but I think if I was to explain to someone else what does John do, for me it'd be like, look, if you're trying to achieve something, he'll get you through that mental barriers along the way, and there is ways of like breaking down limited beliefs and actually reinstalling confidence and beliefs into yourself, because and this probably goes back to being Irish again, we have these goals. Like, I didn't think last year I'd have a full-time online business, you know what I mean? That would have been like, I don't know. And then you're kind of like, what do you mean you don't know? Great, let's talk about this. Why couldn't you do this? And then try and kind of iron all those out. Well, okay, maybe I can do it. Cool, you can do it, right? Let's talk about how we're going to do it and bring in someone through that process. I suppose that was kind of my experience with you anyways.
Well, I think if anyone comes to me, there's always some kind of underlying issue, and maybe, you know, someone will come to me with a perceived problem, but after a couple of sessions, that perceived problem's not actually the problem. Like, you know, we dig deep, we unearth a few things, and we find out where exactly it is we need to go. Now, goal setting is one of the last things that we ever do, because if you want to set a goal out straight away, it's like trying to run a race with your shoes tied. So first of all, you have to see where you're at, see where things are, see where you're sitting right now. But then afterwards, you know, like, you introduce a couple of models. Like, you have to learn how to reframe perspectives on different situations that are happening in your life. You have to be able to break down those limiting beliefs, because if you're going towards any sort of goal, there's going to be a limiting belief that will feed in then to a fear. So you need to know how to break down a fear of embarrassment, fear of failure, whatever your fear is. And then you have to know how to turn on a confidence to go through it. If you can't do those specific things and more, then you're not going to achieve any goal, because you're going to stumble at some stage, and like, that self-sabotage will creep in if you can't get over certain mindset blocks that you have. Now, that could be personal ones, that could be body image, that could be conflict with other people, that could be just not having clarity on where you are at your life at the moment. But that's the beauty of, like, kind of addressing these things with these powerful coaching questions. You get to find the answers within yourself, but then to map it out onto a game plan, take actionable steps towards it, implement it, and actually prove to yourself that you can, like, every time I get on a call with someone, like we speak about where you want to be in a year's time, but I know myself that whatever it is that they're saying, it can be achieved in 2 or 3 months. We have this glass ceiling over ourselves. And then when you realise with a little bit of accountability and a little bit of an action plan that you can achieve a lot more than you give yourself credit for, once you can see that, wow, I did this in 2 months, you get that realisation yourself, what else am I capable of? Now, it's not just like you said, some kind of spell and it's over. You will always, like Paul Merson, ex-Arsenal player who has long life battle with addictions, he always says your addictions are always outside your door doing press-ups ready to pounce. I love that analogy, but
it's very true though. It's very true.
I see that the same as your, like, any mental mindset blocks, any mental health blocks, any stressors, any overthinking, stuff like that. I feel like they're always ready to creep in and come at you when you least expect it. Like, even for me, you know, I'm very grateful that I've done the studying, that I've listened to the podcasts, that I've done the courses, because like I can go into those dark places, but like now I've that awareness, which is key to pull myself out of it. Like, you know, and awareness is 80% of it, and if you have the techniques and stuff on top of that, it's a massive boost, because, you know, every now and again I will overthink, I will, you know, go into a bad state, I will stress, but it's been, instead of that knocking you off where you want to go for maybe a couple of months or maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of hours, you can put stuff into play, know what your formula is to get you back on top and keep moving forward.
Well, you said like technique there, and I think this is one thing, like, you know, people back home, like, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? I'm like, look, there is ways and means of doing these things. Like, when you're going through those mental struggles, it's the same as if you've ever gone to counselling or therapy, and I don't know if you have. Like, I did. I went through it for a period in 2019, I think. Now, that was kind of for myself, stuff that I was struggling with. But like, I think what people don't realise about whether it's dealing with yourself or dealing with a therapy session is they're there to give you techniques to get you through that period. You know what I mean? It's not like you talk about it and hash it out. It's more like you talk about it, you recognize it for what it is, and you learn how to get around it, or you learn how to know when it's popping back up again, or when it's coming back into your life, and what way you can do to deal with it, which is something a lot of people don't realize. I'm not going there, I don't need help. I'm not saying you need help. You just might need a technique or two to get around the situation that you're currently in. You know what I mean? It's not putting anything under the rug. Like, everyone struggles in their own ways. But why did you get into mindset? Like, that's a little bit, I kind of have a little bit of a backstory to it, but what got you into that, I suppose? And
it's funny, like, you know, the way you mentioned Irish there, and there's like that stigma can be thrown around, and like, I've gotten to this stage where I've spoken about my personal story a few times, where a few people comment, "Are you still talking about that?" Like, people take it really personally when you tell your own story, but I was always interested in, specifically, like, sports people, like Kevin Moore, used to play for Dublin and Man U. He put his head where you wouldn't put, you know, your body. Roy Keane, these kind of people. Always had a massive interest in how they worked, like Paul Galvin particularly. You know, he was the first person I kind of seen journaling and writing down and having reminders about his goals when he wanted to get Player of the Year in an All-Ireland, stuff like that. Really intrigued me. And obviously I've trained as a teacher, UCD, Hibernia, teach for 7, 8, 9, whatever years. And I think teaching's actually a great kind of background to help me do what I do now, because it's essentially what I like to do is actually teach the person on how to implement this, and not just do a session and that was great. I want it to be a case that my external accountability becomes an internal habit in them, that they can ring me in 2 years' time going, "Oh, I was struggling with my confidence there, and I was able to turn it on because of that session that we've did." That's a win for me in the long term. But probably, like, through the years, I would have went up and down with my mental health. That's no secret. I'm very, very comfortable in speaking about it, and like maybe a little bit too comfortable now. And it's gotten to a stage where, like, sometimes I hold back a little bit now, because you don't want to kind of hurt maybe your girlfriend or your family's feelings, because when you hear stuff like that, it's upsetting. Like,
yeah.
But like, I feel like in so much control over those things now. Like, even at Christmas there, like, with every high has to come a low. I had a massive high at Christmas from seeing my friends for the first time in a couple of years and out partying with them, great time. But then there comes that low. Like, I woke up on the 28th of December and my inner critic was like literally saying, you should kill yourself. Like, but like, I am at the place now where I knew my inner critic isn't me, and I had that awareness. But like, it was still horrible, and you're like, oh Jesus. But then I was driving my dad's van that day, and like, that voice was still pecking away, and I just remember like saying out loud, oh, will you shut the fuck up? And I started laughing, but that just took the legs clean off the inner critic. But then I knew, right, my formula to get back on form is I need to start eating well, I need to go exercise, I need to do these things to quickly take me back on top. And like, the difference a week makes is ridiculous. Because like, I was going through Dublin Airport, and that's where I came up with the name, the Dopamine Challenge, because I was so low in dopamine. I literally asked my girlfriend, could I wear a mask through the airport, because I didn't want to make eye contact with people. And then like, you meet people going, oh, are you not meant to be this guru? No, I'm not. I'm just sharing what I've learned with other people, and it's working. But so if I circle back, you know, up and down through the years, whether just the head wasn't right and I didn't know how to deal with it, like a lot of young men don't. I just didn't know what was going on in my head, why I was acting the way I was, why I was messing up the way I was on a regular basis, and fluctuating up and down through the years, messing up. And then it just kind of came to a heat up in Abu Dhabi when I first moved out. You know, got back in a good space, back in football team, good crack. Then just started drinking again, not drinking again, didn't stop drinking, like but just drinking more, and just my head went basically. And like, one night it just took me down to the side of the motorway where, you know, I considered jumping out in front of a lorry or whatever. And like, that's something like I kind of stopped sharing, because
do you think the drink played a role in that, like bringing you down a bit slowly over time? Because I know myself personally, like drink is, you know, the older I get, the more and more I'm going to have to get rid of it, like, as in just decreased over time. Because what you said about over Christmas, I woke up on the 28th as well, and I was like, get me the fuck out of Ireland. Like, because the thing about Ireland is, don't get me wrong, I have some great mates, and the culture going in and having the crack is great, but it's almost becoming too much now. It's too much drink. There's too much drugs going around as well. It's like, we don't know how to have a fucking civilized night without it going to the next fucking level. You know what I mean? It's always like, what's the next level? And I think there needs to be a bit of a reality check with Ireland at the moment, because it's, you know, the whole idea of going in and having a few pints is done. That's not a thing anymore. It's always more, you know. And I think when I was over Christmas, I was like, I need to get out of here, man. Because over here, I'm not distracted by that. Yeah, I can go out, I can have a few drinks, I can get fucked up if I want to, but the temptation to do that is a lot more, to less, like, you know what I mean? And over Christmas, obviously, I was excited to be home. I had a huge high, but also the huge high became a big downfall. The realization, number one, nothing had changed when I left in the space of 4 or 5 months. You know, the drinking culture is great, but it's out of control, and now there's drugs involved as well. And it's just that big downturn. Like, you almost feel like when you're hungover, you have to just start drinking again, because you don't want to deal with those thoughts. And my thoughts weren't as bad as yours, but certainly I was sitting in bed being like, you're a piece of shit. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're fucking 30 odd years of age. Like, get your fucking act together. Like, and me only after going out a few nights, like, you know what I mean?
Sure. My sister said to me when I first landed home at Christmas, she's like, are you going to be leaving here in bad form again? Because every time I be home, like, I do a big session, but people don't realise that's me on my holidays. People don't see that 3, 4, 5, 6 months of 16 hours grinding, and like, and that's your release valve. But like, fair enough, I should have nearly a plan in place now to maybe not overshoot the runway, but like you said, bit by bit that awareness is creeping in. And maybe it's something like, I know myself, like you mentioned therapy earlier, that's something that's on my bucket list. I really want to go to therapy, because like, all these challenges and stuff I do, they're good, they set me up for dealing with real challenges when they come knocking on my door, But I also know people who do extreme challenges like that. There's something in your shadow self that you haven't dealt with personally, and I know there's a lot. Like I'm aware of them. There's stuff that I haven't dealt with, and that's why maybe I act a certain way at times or think a certain way at times. So yeah, like, gone on a tangent there, but like
no, I know what you're saying. Like my experience from therapy, like, and it's not something that not many people know about. Like, there's probably a very close few group of friends that would know about it. And I went, and I'm not going to get into the reasons why I went, but because it's a bit personal to me. But I was struggling. I was struggling with how to handle weekends, and things were just getting out of control. I was grinding 60, 70 hours a week, trying to get promotions and jobs, and then it was like driving home from Dublin to Offaly in the motorway, just ringing everyone I can in my book. Even if I didn't know them, I'm like, who the fuck's out? I need a relief. I need to go out. I need to get drunk. That's a Friday. Waking up on a Saturday, obviously hungover, straight down to the pub, watch the football, drink all day Saturday. And the whole idea was, sure, I'm working all week, like. And then Sunday was just depressed, like. Monday depressed. Tuesday starting to feel a bit better. Wednesday buzzes back on again. And it was just this fucking endless cycle. I was like, I have to stop this. And like, there was people I was hanging around with, good friends, and I was kind of sitting around like, lads, we're not getting sick of this shit, like, you know what I mean? It's the same fucking bullshit every weekend. No, man, it's grand. I was like, I can't do this. I have to get out of this. Like, so then I went and met a very nice woman. I met her for a couple of months, and like it did put me on my path. I was actually only speaking to her the other day because she's like, how are you getting on? Because at the time she was like, why are you in this job? Because the job was very mentally demanding for me. For like, you know, it was just a huge transition going from, you know, going to college. Like, I should have never went to college, you know what I mean? I had really bad dyslexia when I was in school, so then getting through college is one thing, and then getting this massive corporate job, and I was like, I shouldn't be here, like. And it was just all me talking to myself, you know. And she was like, what are you doing? Like, and kind of brought me through that whole process of, look, you know, you're your own worst enemy, giving me like little techniques and stuff to kind of identify what is emotional thought, what's a logical thought, and how to get through it all. And that was one of the best things that ever kind of happened to me, because I think what people don't realize is, even when you do get help, you're still always fighting the battle. Like, it's just that you've armed yourself with some tools now, you know what I mean? Like, I had lots of slip up along the way. Even after I met her, I still fucked up. I still had like really good months. I still had really, really bad months where I kind of like, there's something not right here, you know? But you just keep pushing through, and eventually you come out the other side, you know? But yeah, like, you know yourself, you can have big highs and you can have big lows. And I think, you know, I think a lot, maybe not all guys, and I'm not speaking for all guys, but a lot of lads need a challenge, like, and we're always searching for fucking something to kind of push yourself towards. And I feel like if you don't really have a purpose. You don't know why you're doing things, you know. That's what I felt like anyways. But the downside to that is, it's like an all or nothing mentality. It's like you're pushing to be very, very good at something, and then when you achieve it, it's like this complete emptiness. You're like, fuck, what's next? And it's just never ending. It's like, when is it going to happen again, you know?
But like, you know, it's burning the candle at both ends. That's something that was highlighted to me when I was younger, playing football for the local club. Because, you know, I was maybe really fit, but every weekend I was drinking 2 or 3 nights a week, like. But even now, I notice that burning the candle at both ends with the business and everything else. Like, I'm trying to cram everything in, like, and I feel like that's just a part of my personality. And at jiu-jitsu the last night, I was talking to a guy about burning the candle, and he just changed my perspective on it. Like, and you know, I'll speak about, like, I'm doing a lot of NLP work at the moment, neuro-linguistic programming, and how that like helps literally change your perspective on every interaction, every conflict, every previous trauma, every previous memory you had. It's unbelievable. Like, it's that, to be honest, to me is like a magic wand. No, but, I did a session of it in a mentorship there very recently. Some girl came on, very well accredited, but she went through a whole session of it. I was like, wow, like, this is really, really good, like, you know. It's unbelievable stuff. Like, you know, going back to those 3-day benders or whatever, I remember saying to my friends when I was 21 or something, I was after crashing a mate's car, and I literally said,
"You have been to the worst place."
There's a few stories I just
can't. This lad's like, what's wrong with these lads?
There's a few stories that haven't been probably shared yet, but I'm an open book. Like, as long as
the only thing I ever crashed was my dad's Jeep. He wasn't happy with that.
there's been a couple of cars now.
It's funny. I'll never forget the day. I know I'm going off tangent here, but when the day I crashed my dad's Jeep, I remember I just went into the pub. I didn't even say a word. He just looked at me and he just knew well. He was like, "You fucking prick." Oh man.
But I would wake up and I'd say to my friends, when am I going to fuck up again? But like from studying NLP, like my subconscious was looking for the when are you going to fuck up again? Like it goes to even fast forward to my vision board now. Like there's a couple of things I left purposely on my vision board that I've no interest in, and I just notice them a lot more, and I look for more information on those things because they're subconsciously there. Like, and you know, that's kind of tiptoeing a wee bit around NLP. But where was the story before NLP going? What was we even talking about?
I don't know, man. We just went off a bit tangent about therapy and stuff like that. I do think, and I kind of hope the mentality does shift a little bit. Like,
so sorry for cutting across.
No, you're right.
The burn the candle thing.
Oh yes.
So the guy at Jiu-Jitsu, he's like, yeah, well, how do you expect not to be the best at whatever it is you're going towards if you're not burning that candle? Like if you're not going all in, like, because I said to him, I lack balance, and I'm well aware that I lack balance. And like he's like, oh, I bet you people expect you to be promoting balance and all that stuff, because that's what you said you do with your clients. They have to have a healthy balance. And he's like, if you want to be the best PT, the best coach, the best at Jiu-Jitsu, you have to burn that candle. You have to give it everything. And that, honest to God, last Wednesday, it actually gave me a completely new perspective on going all in on something. And like that's a lot that I actually learned from Jiu-Jitsu. I learn perspective from Jiu-Jitsu. I learn a lot about myself every single night I go to Jiu-Jitsu. But like, see the way, like if I'm looking at the coach doing a technique and I can't get it, all I have to do, like, and some night, like I'll step to the left and I see it from a completely new angle, and it's like, oh my God. Once you're introduced to new information, like your perspective on any situation can change.
I think just kind of touching a little bit more on like the let's say the grind and kind of getting stuff done. Like, even though like my coaching style is very much like, I try and help people who are in very busy situations, like we're in that corporate job or really busy parents, because I think you should be grinding at your career. I think you should be working hard. I honestly think like there's people out there who love just taking the boxes, going in and just doing their bit and getting out. That's fine. But there's also people who really are motivated and want to do well. And I'm kind of like, yeah, cool. Like if that's you, by all means do that. And I suppose where I come in from my side is, that's great that you have that. That's your priority. Do you know what I mean? That's your number one thing. And you might have your family, you might have your relationship. Don't make health and fitness be another priority. Like, you know what I mean? Unless you're looking to go to Mr. Olympia next year, what's the point? And most of the people that I work with are like, I really just want to lose a little bit of weight, improve my confidence. Cool, we can do that. But you don't have to grind it. You don't have to grind it the way you grind work, because you have enough on your plate with that. But like I'm very much like yourself. I feel like I have to, like I can't sit still. I seriously can't fucking sit still. Like, you know what I mean? It itches me to sit down and sit there for an hour watching TV, and I know I could be doing a bit of work. And maybe that's not a good thing all the time, but where
do you think your coaching style comes from?
Where does it come from? I suppose, like, it's only really, the thing about coaching is, like, when you're jumping into it, you're trying to help as many people as possible, and then you're trying to niche down, I suppose, getting into that style of niching down. And I think, like, where mine comes from specifically is my experience. Like, I've always, no matter what I've done, I've always kept my health and fitness in check. Sometimes, I haven't, like, and right now I'm pushing it quite hard, but sometimes I've just ticked the boxes to make sure my weight doesn't get out of control. Like, there's coaches out there who've gone through like massive transformations, lost like 50, 60 kilos. I've kind of never been that. I've always been somewhat in shape. So my mentality and kind of where my coaching style comes in, look, I've done pretty well in life. You know what I mean? I've got myself through college, worked throughout the whole, experience. I went back when I was 23. I had my own fitness classes. I still had a social life. So I had a bit of everything. I was a guy who liked doing a little bit of lifting, but also enjoyed having a bit of social life within reason. I didn't have what everyone else had, but I was able to do a bit of both. And I had the exact same when I was in my corporate job. A very busy job like everyone else. I'd see lads coming in the door and they'd put on maybe a stone away in a couple of months. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, you have to keep these other things in check, because as I said, like, I did very well because I was able to, even though I had a couple of periods where weekends were getting out of hand, like Monday and Friday, I was working, I was up in the morning, I wasn't getting up, you know what I mean, dragged myself out of bed and made sure I had enough sleep, made sure I was going to the gym in the evening, and I started bringing packed lunches to work. Simple little things like that. And trying to, like, I would see a lot of people, when we used to go over to England quite a bit for meetings and stuff. And the whole idea was you get over, everyone goes out, you get a dinner, a couple of pints, and you get fucking pissed. But then you have to deal with consequences on Friday. So I used to be like, look, before I go get absolutely smashed, I'm going to go into the gym and I'm going to do a bit of running, get off the plane, keep that in check, go out, limit myself to maybe 4 or 5 pints. So I'm getting the best of both worlds and I'm not being restrictive at the same time. And then I'm still getting up on Friday when everyone else is absolutely dying. I'm still somewhat refreshed, because I was kind of, even in the corporate world, I was on the back foot a little bit. Like, I was with these really intelligent people, like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of lied to get into this job, in the sense I had to do a test and I got one of my really smart friends to do the test for me. So I was kind of always in the back foot. It's a very technical job. So in order for me to stay on par with everyone, or even be a little bit above, I had to keep things in check. I couldn't prick about as much as I would probably have liked. So kind of that experience, and always having the ability to focus in on something, put the work in, but still keep my personal health in check. That's kind of where my style comes from, you know what I mean? I was always into enjoying a bit of social life. I was also into doing weights, and I'm also, you know, obsessive when it comes to nutrition. And like, I think what I see with a lot of coaches at the moment, it is changing a bit, but the historical PT is the ripped guy, you know what I mean? And he's telling people, right, look, you need to follow this meal plan. I'm like, for fuck's sake, man. What happens when someone stops working with you? You know what I mean? They don't learn it and like teach people how to do these, because it's very basic. Like, it, not that it's basic, it takes time obviously to get someone through that, teach them how to track their calories or stick to regular eating patterns and stuff like that. And I think that shift needs to change. Like, instead of having to be this all or nothing, oh, if I'm going to lose weight, I want to prepare for a photo shoot. Whereas I'm kind of in the middle. I'm like, you don't have to prepare for a photo shoot. Like, if you're not going off to do a competition next year, you just want to look a little bit better and feel a little bit better, let's do that. You know what I mean? Fuck all this bullshit to the side. Like, you don't need to be cutting out carbs. You don't need to be following stupid diet trends. In fact, you know, for a lot of people that come on board, the number one predictor to how successful they'll be with their diet is literally adherence. Can you stick to what you're going to do for X amount of time? You know what I mean? And the idea is, try and eat what you're always eating, but we'll improve it slightly. We'll add a little bit of protein, we'll add a little bit of fiber, we'll bring the calories down. And then once you do hit your goals, it's a matter of just increasing the calories with the same food groups you've already had. You're not being restrictive, it's a little bit easier to follow, and the success rate is much higher as opposed to following a diet, which has a terrible success rate. So that's kind of where my coaching style comes from, trying to bring a little bit of common sense and clarity in. Like, I have my own personal goals. You know, I want to do like a men's physique competition, but that's my competitiveness, you know what I mean? I wouldn't tell anyone comes on board with me and says, I want to do men's physique. I'm like, first of all, I'm not a men's physique coach. I can't help you. You know what I mean? I only know so much in my realm. And secondly, that is a different gravy. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny because I have a coach now at the moment. This guy's fucking bodybuilding coach. And I remember starting with him, and obviously I'm a coach, so we have similar ways of teaching people. And the first week he just looked at my check-in, he's like, what the fuck is this bullshit? I was like, oh Jesus Christ. And then I realized, oh fuck, there is massive levels to this game, you know. And I'm kind of, I think, in that level where it's like, look, if you are looking to, if you're in your job and you're somewhat career driven, but you're not, you've no handle over the health and fitness side of things, and we all know if you can look after that, everything else generally looks after itself. I'll teach you how to look after that. You know what I mean? One thing we do is like a minimum commitment process with people. So basically when they come in, I'm like, right, what does your week look like? Cool. What is the minimum commitment you can make to the gym? Is it 1 day? Is it 2 days? Generally we want them to say 2 if possible. And then from there I'll say, look, you only need to do 2. I can program something for 2 hours, or for, let's say, 45 minutes each. I'll cover both bodies, you'll hit all muscle groups. That's fine, but I need you to maybe look at other ways of increasing your exercise activity. Can you do a 10-minute walk on a Monday? Instead of telling them you have to do 45-minute walks, you know what I mean? Give them a buffer, 10, 15 minutes as the weeks goes on. You know yourself after a hard day's work, the thought of coming home and doing a 10, 15-minute walk versus a gym session that you don't want to do, and the effort of going all the way down to the gym.
Like I've done like those shred nates and all those things throughout the year. Like, and I remember the latest one I did during COVID. Like we got in great shape, like, but it was no way to live.
No.
And I was running a marathon on the Friday, so I think I had like a pasta dish on Thursday evening, and I told the coach, and he was like, "What do you mean you had pasta?" I was like, "Well, I'm running a marathon tomorrow. How you meant to hit your whatever?" I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, and that's kind of where like my style would be slightly different. Now, I'm not the only one that has this style, and as I said, I kind of started off with like getting inspiration from the likes of, let's say, Sean Casey, okay, who I think very much in many ways changed the game a little bit, bringing that kind of common sense into it. Look, do you know what I mean? We don't need to be doing this. Make a couple of calorie swaps, go to the gym when you can, and move on. But then obviously when you do become a coach and you want to niche down a little bit, because everyone has their own set of skills, you know what I mean? You have something that you can bring to the table that maybe not a lot of other people can. One thing I see actually is I see coaches who are like, I help busy professionals. I'm like, but you have never been a busy professional. You've never worked in a corporate job. What is it that you bring to the table? And then I see the plans that people are giving them. Oh, yeah, he has me gym 4 times a week. I'm like, right, so you're in a senior account executive role. You're going to gym 4 times a week. How do you see your family? And like, and you're on a low carb diet. How does this work for everyone around you in your circle? I don't really know. I'm like, what do you want? Like, if you want to get abs, cool. Go and work with that lad. I don't care. But if you just want to improve your overall health, and you can get reasonably fit and have all that without having to go too extreme. It just takes longer. You know what I mean? We can't do this in 12 weeks. It's going to look like maybe 16 weeks. So we can give you what you want, but we need to go a little bit longer with it, you know?
And I guess those kind of coaches are keeping the likes of me in business, because that guy you just described, he's going to be stressed to the max. He's going to be overwhelmed. His inner critic's going to be at him. You know, he's not going to be in a great headspace, and he's going to be looking to try and balance that out if he has any kind of aims or...
Yeah, I think like what a lot of those coaches, I feel like personally doing, I'm not calling anyone out here, but I feel like when someone, like if someone's in that role, right, or you're in a really busy role, or let's say you're 2 parents and you do night shifts, okay, your priority is work and bringing in money and feeding a family. That is your number one priority. Now you want to change your health and fitness goals. The worst thing that you could do as a coach is come in and say, cool, I'm going to bring another shitstorm of fucking unnecessary work for you to take on, plus what's already going on in your life. That's not how that works. Like, you're only setting them up for failure, and then when they do fail, it just fucks up the industry, because what happens is people are like, Asher, I can't do it. The amount of people I've talked on the phone, I can't do it. Why? Asher, I tried everything. Look, I know you might have tried a lot, but unfortunately there's people out there who just probably don't know, or you haven't found the right formula yet that works for you. I think it's really about making it simplistic for people. A lot of people, like in Ireland and the UK, I think one of the heaviest nations in Europe at the moment, and a lot of this can be easily, I'm not saying easily reversed, but a lot of people don't realise you getting out and saying doing a couple of walks an evening, 1 to 2 gym sessions, and literally not cutting out junk food, cutting down on junk food, will make a massive difference. Like, it'll make a huge difference. Most people lose weight straight away off the bat. But then when you want to get good results, then that's where you got to get a little bit, more clever about what way you're going about your foods or calories during the week versus weekends, etc. But I think people just, they have the same mentality with let's say, any goal. And you've probably done this yourself. You're like, right, I'm going to go no takeaways for 6 weeks, and that's it. I want to get fucking ripped here. I'm going to get shredded. But like, you're 2 weeks in and you've already had a takeaway and a couple of pints, and you're just giving up on the entire process. You know what I mean?
And that's why I always kind of like nearly describe myself as like Ricky Hatton, because I would do those shreds and I would immediately blow up, because I would go straight for beers, pizzas, as much as I could get on, and then I was back to square one and starting that cycle over and over again. Like, but like, I've been following your cookbook and obviously your recipes on Instagram, whatever, and kind of taking that approach this year, because I guess I realised like throughout the years I've been sportier into fitness, but maybe that's not a value of mine, and like like we said, like about coaching styles, like I value like looking after as much people as possible, but that looking after comes from growing up seeing dad looking after people and taking his shirt off his back to help people out, mum looking after people, that kind of social, like caring for the person in front of you. Like I'd be more of a chilled out, like let's have a conversation, and good conversations, like, and you know, your heart would go out to some people, and that's the way it should be, kind of, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if someone actually asked me just very recently in a podcast, like, what does the coin method mean? Why did you call it coin method? Obviously my name is in it, but very much kind of what you just said there. Like my family working class, like my father was block layer, like, but it was very much like you gotta go out and you gotta do a little bit of work, but also it doesn't matter who walks in that house. If they want to go to the press and grab a bit of food, grab away, don't go hungry, like, you know what I mean? You're a guest, like, and it's funny because I've been in opposite situations where you're going into a house where people had way more money than my parents, and it was very hostile. Kind of like, who's this lad?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think most Irish people are like that, to be fair. I know a lot of my mates, and I grew up with, you know, we were always running around different people's houses. Like, it was no issue, you know what I mean? Very much working class. We all stick by each other. Anyone, like, you just help people, you know what I mean? Anyone needs help, you help people. Like, you don't think you're above anyone, no matter where you are in life. That's one thing that really annoys me. It gets to people's heads. I'm like, do you not remember where you come from, mate? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's what I said to you driving in here today. Like, a guy literally said, look, I don't have the financial means to do the coaching right now. And I was literally like, okay, well, pay me next year then when you do it. Let's get you sorted first. Like, and like I can see a lot of crossover between kind of your style, but it's obviously different games between your style and mine. But like, I like to keep it very simple, because if you're drilling something and making someone overwhelmed, there's going to be kickback from it. So like, I prefer someone to kind of like enjoy it, go at their own pace, pick things up as they go. And like, I always lean back to that David Goggins quote that it's the small sparks that light the fire that burn down the whole fucking forest. Because it's the small, like, simple things done over and over again that literally gets you from where you are to where you want to be.
Have you listened to his new book?
I have,
It's fucking unbelievable. Every time I listen to it, I was like, you are nothing, Stuart. Get your life together.
Like, I've listened to his first book, Can't Hurt Me, like, I'd say north of 12, 13 times. I've only listened to the new book, never finished once.
I'm the same.
But like, I'm looking to get it back on today, because I remember the chapter where he interviews his own mother. Man,
that was tough.
Yeah,
that was very, very tough.
I had tears in my eyes.
I was walking to the gym, and there was a part where his mother was talking about trueness. Sounds like a fucking absolute cunt of a man, but like she was talking about obviously the shit David had to go through, and she had to pull him through it, and I was like, fuck me, this is hard, boys. Like, even she was nearly crying as well. I think he asked her at one point, do you want a break? But that man, like, I remember when I heard Can't Hurt Me, I remember I actually have a post on my feed ages ago. It was one of the first men, like, you have to fucking listen to this book. Like, this is amazing. And his second book is arguably just as good, if not even better. But I'm constantly telling people, like, listen, you think your life's hard? Listen to that fucking book, like, you know what I mean?
I'll pull you up on that, actually, because do you know the way, like, his life was hard, but like, what I kind of see with people, and what, like, I kind of tell people as well, like, his life is hard, but if the hardest thing I have is I'm getting shin splints from running, I don't give a shit that David Goggins got battered every day. Like, I only care for, unless it is having a direct effect on me, it's irrelevant. Like, one of my clients, he won't mind me sharing this, he's one of the most inspirational people that I've met, simply because we were talking about, like, I do a weekly check-in, monthly check-in, and that's checking in on what made you happy this week, because it's good to focus on that rather than focus on the negatives. What were you grateful for, whether that be the smell of fresh air or something big. It actually promotes your happiness levels. What were your wins, just to make sure you're reflecting, and what are your intentions, whether they're big or small. So this guy couldn't, like, he was like, wow, like, I've never really checked in or reflect or looked back, and whatever like whatever job he has, he's like, I actually literally tell people to get themselves checked every week, and I haven't got myself checked in a long time. So one of his intentions for the week was to go to the GP and just get a NCT, just get himself checked, you know.
NCT.
And like, you know, no symptoms, no nothing. And that was literally on his check-in. So he went to the doctor, and I think within 10 days, less than 2 weeks, he was in a hospital getting tumours removed from his brain.
What?
And now he started chemo simply because he stopped, took a check-in and got himself looked after. Now that was during November, which was probably like a good month for it. But he's like, I only did it because I was doing my check-in and kind of looking at myself. Because like until then, like maybe he was feeling a wee bit overwhelmed with maybe work and trying to juggle everything. But like if you can't fill up your own cup and be the best version of you, you're not going to be fit to look after work or your girlfriends or whatever else. But like his attitude towards it, and like, do you know, I'll often think of him when I'm doing my running challenge, or like when I'm going around the marina, I'll see someone like in a wheelchair. I'm like, okay, why am I thinking about giving up when they don't even have the opportunity to do that? But like he almost has, like, if you want to kind of reframe his terrible situation, he almost has that like special ticket that he can actually see, right, work means fuck all, money means fuck all, it's family, it's friends. He can see the important things. He's lucky to see the important things. But like when people say, poor him, he has this, I'm like, yeah, but you don't care because you're not directly affected. You care about your 50-year own debt.
Yeah.
It needs to directly affect you.
I know what you're saying.
Do you know what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. It is mad, like, because it depends, I think, who you are. But I know one thing is I sometimes I look back and I'm like, I don't know what happened the last 3 months. Like it's just blank, like, you know, because I'm so caught up in my own world. Like I've noticed the last while when I'm trying to obviously grind at work, and like that period when I did a recipe book obviously in a month, like I'm not joking, I thought I nearly had kidney failure from drinking energy drinks. Like I was just in this fucking shitty dark room, no ambient light, with ambient light, no external light. I thought I lost my marbles. I was like, Jesus Christ, every day it was just an absolute crying. And then I remember I went out after it, and I just couldn't be in the moment, because like even when I was out, I was checking my phones, I was looking at sales, I was looking at how my content did, because it was directly related to whether I was going to get more sales. And like my girlfriend was like, you've lost it, like, you know what I mean? Fucking lost. I'm like, oh Jesus, I need to come out of this a wee bit. But we all get, I think everyone, you can get caught up in your own world, like, and that can be as extreme as me trying to push a business, or it can be just someone going through the fog. You know what I mean by the fog? Isn't typical, just someone in a factory job and kind of almost giving up on life. And I'm not saying anything bad about anyone, because people get caught up in this and they have families to support. And you know, I've come from a working class family, so I know the story. But going through the fog of just been like, well, this is it. You know what I mean? And just kind of giving up a little bit, and then it's a blur. 2 or 3 years go by and can't believe what happened, you know. I actually met a guy back home not so long ago, and I remember sitting down beside him and he was like, oh, look at you, like life's going really well for you. And I'm the last person you want to say that to, especially if I know his story. This guy's no kids, no nothing. I was like, mate, here, get some fucking tissue out of the bathroom there and dry your eyes. Like, I'm not listening to this bullshit. Like, you've no idea what I went through to get to where I want, and you can't sit here and have a little fucking sing song about it.
Or even what you may be going through right now that no one knows about.
People just think, oh, you're doing well, you got lucky. You have no idea, like, you know, I'm the last person who got lucky. And the fact that we come from the same town, had the same opportunities as you, kind of almost felt like just fucking slapping him and saying, listen, mate, like, the sympathy party is over for you. This is life. You know what I mean? I think people fail to, you know, that like kind of mid to late 20s, they fail to see or recognize that, fuck, this is it now. I need to fucking get my shit together. I need to save. I need to do this. And if you do want to progress, you need to give up time. Like, you need to sit down and say, cool, right, I'm not in the position I want to be in. But I think like if you're in your late 20s and you don't have a family, okay, maybe you're in a relationship, you give up your evenings, you give up your weekends and grind and work on something that you might want to do. Or if you are, like, one thing I see with people in factories back home, like Ireland has like Springboard where you can do a free course. You can literally get a free qualification. I think it's like 400 quid or something like that. Government will pay for it. All you do is got to give up your free time and do a bit of study. And then you get up to a next position. Next position equals more money, more opportunities. Instead of sitting there and constantly giving out about people and about, oh, sure, life's not fair. Fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, of course it's not fair. You know what I mean? There's people that live in third world countries who have nothing. You live in a country where if you don't have a job, you get given money to survive. Like, you know what I mean?
But there's those couch streams too. Like, you know, I've spoken to many's many's a man, maybe on a Zoom call or whatever, and yeah, do you know what? I like what you're doing, like the results. I have this idea because X, Y, and Z, and then when it comes to like committing to a program or whatever,
yeah,
do you know what? Yeah, I like what you had there, but I think I'm gonna be fit to do it myself. And like I never knew what ghosting was until this year. Hey, like the amount of like people, like, because I was like, that's a great idea, and you get on to them. Yeah, I'll be back to you tomorrow, and check in a week, nothing, blue ticks, and you're like, what happened? So like in 6 months' time, you check. I wonder, is this business going? Not still talking about it, whether that's at home or at the bar or whatever. Like, you know, like
I always say to people that say, like, I'm not a pressure guy. You know, I'm like, look, if you need more time, fair enough. But I always say to people straight up, you give yourself 24 to 48 hours and you're going to talk your way out of this decision. And I'm not trying to put pressure on you to do this. You just will. Like, and I always say to them, look, is there something maybe that I have failed to get across to you about my program and what my program can offer you? Because you either don't have enough information on your end, or you're just trying to be nice and not tell me no on the phone. And I can't stand that. Like, I cannot stand, like we're all human, we're adults. Just say no, you don't want to do it. Like I always say to people, can you justify the price for what I'm offering? Yeah, cool. Why don't we sign up? I don't know. Look, if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. I give you 24 hours, but 9 times out of 10 people are just going to change their minds. So it's up to you. You can make a small deposit. I'll give you your deposit back if you want. Just put some skin in the game and see what happens, you know?
But like people, like I know one lad in particular, like everything he set out to do, he achieved it within the year. But now everyone's like, yeah, but that's just the way the cards fell for him. That's just like what life had in store for him. I'm like, no, this is something he highlighted. He had a different job. He left it because of this plan. Now he's living here and doing this because he went through these steps. And yes, a limiting belief came up. Oh, what will my parents think? What will this think? Yes, the fear of moving was there, and the fear of like leaving that job he was comfortable in. Like maybe like he needed that confidence or whatever. But he went through those little simple steps and he executed it. And now I know, but that's the way he's one of the lucky ones.
And I hear it all the time. I remember when I left my job, people were like, you're crazy. Like brand new Audi, really, really good salary. Trajectory was good. Actually, when I went to leave, they tried to offer me a managerial position, but obviously meant more money. Like, and I was like, I'm done. There's no point in doing this, because it was my second time trying to leave in 1 month or something like that. So I was like, I'm done. Everyone's like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, why? And I remember even when I went to another job, which was a pretty decent job, but my mind wasn't in it. I was like, this is a fucking stepping stone here. I have more time free to do X, Y, and Z. But like when you make that decision and you go for it, you just don't look back. Like, you know what I mean? The way I see it is, if you do that and you say you take a year out, right? I'll be a year out come August. Say if it all goes to shit, I have to move back to Ireland in the year. Like, what's the worst that happens? You know what I mean? I still have, unlike a lot of other people, and I'm very fortunate to have this, I have 3 years in a very, very good job, sales job. Like that's automation sales. And I also have medical sales. So I have 4 years of really, really good career behind me. I can jump back into that, no problem. 1 year is nothing. And imagine I get an interview in August. Cool, what have you done the last year? I just moved country, I set up my own business. That's more valuable than probably what I would have done. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, the way I always see it is like I remember one of the biggest things I think me and you discussed was like, I do not want to sit here when I'm 40 and go, fuck, why didn't I give it a go? Like that's the biggest thing for me, is sitting back and going, fuck, why didn't I just do that? Like I could have easily gave that a go. Like I have no kids. I'm lucky that I'm at this age. I have the opportunities to do that. But the worst thing I think in life could be looking back and going, oh fuck, like what Joe Rogan says, I could have given it a bit more, or what if I did this, you know. I think that would haunt me. That would fucking absolutely terrorize me. Like,
yeah, like looking forward at what you don't want is good, like, you know, because success leaves clues. There's a lot of people, I don't want to be working in the job that whoever in my family has, or I don't want that relationship. And like I always say, the more you focus on what you don't want, the more of it you get, because that's what, like, the brain doesn't process that don't or can't.
I think what people fail to understand is when you take a step out and you try something that you want to try. Okay, so for me right now, it's coaching, right? It doesn't say that I'm going to be coached forever. Like,
yeah.
Other opportunities opened up. You know what I mean? Like, I've learned how to run social media. I've learned how to edit stuff that I didn't realize. Like, editing is something I remember I told you this. I was like, geez, I actually enjoy this. I actually sitting down and going through the process of this and playing around with light and playing around with stuff. But like, you don't know what it's going to bring. You know, if you sit back and think all of what ifs, you know what I mean? You're not going to open up to that exposure of, Jesus, I could have had that, or life could have went that way for me. You know, I think sometimes just give yourself the opportunity and back yourself and go and do it. Like,
I was listening to Will Smith's book again last night. Very, very good book, and he wanted to really go after the rap game at one stage, him and DJ Jazzy Jeff. And the mum was hell bent on making sure he was the first one of the family to get to college because he had the grades or whatever. But he really fought back because they were getting quite successful, and he's like, Mum, I really want this. And she's like, not, I hope. Are you, what's rap like? Like, they kind of, it's a really, really good book, a lot of good value in it.
He was one of the first that didn't introduce cursing into his raps, didn't he?
They like kind of put the DJing and the rapping together, but the dad had an opportunity when he was younger, and I can't remember now, did his father like take that opportunity away from him or give him the opportunity, one or the other? So the dad kind of sat down and he said, right, you've 1 year to give this a go. You have 1 year to give it everything you got, and if it doesn't work out, your mum can get you that place in the college. Is that a deal with everyone here? And he was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, let's go. So he gave it everything he got for 1 year, and obviously it kind of paid off in a way.
I think people don't, like, 1 year is not that long. It's not that fucking long. Like, if you can, it depends on your position, okay? It really does. And like, there was one thing that Joe Rogan always talks about, is like, you know, set yourself up, like, plan your escape plan. You know what I mean? Put an escape plan in place. If you're in a job you just like, maybe you might have to put by a bit of finance or something like that. But if you can put yourself in a position where you can give it 1 year, downgrading the job that gives you a little bit more freedom to practice and doing whatever it is that you want to achieve, like, go do it 1 year. Too many people are fucking obsessed with this shit. Like, oh, I want to go out every weekend. Listen, just give it 1 fucking year, because the people that you know now, you won't know them in 3 or 4 years. So what does it fucking matter? Like, go hard, go, like, literally balls to the wall, and just see where it brings you. Like, you know what I mean? You don't know what's going to happen. Like,
one of my mates maybe 2 years ago said to me, disappear for 6 months. Like, and you often see quotes of that now. Like, so I think maybe it was last year I did like 100 days off the beer and kind of took myself away from everything, but threw myself at like the coaching and maybe jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. But literally, see, day 50, 60, you're like, this is kind of good. Day 70, 80, like, I seen the trajectory of everything that I was working towards really, really going up. Day 90, I was like, this is unbelievable. This is like, in 1 week, it was this week, like, to the day, this week last year, this is Tuesday, so the Sunday night last year, I went into Catherine and I said to her, look, I want to do X, Y, and Z. I gave her a list of 10 goals, and I think she kind of laughed because some of my ideas might be a little bit funky. But I was like, I'm serious. So I got onto my coach and I got onto my business coach, and we literally put a plan in play that Sunday. By Tuesday, we were 60%, had everything ticked off the list. And by Friday, we had everything ticked off the list. Now, the goal was to get it done in 2 weeks. But the majority of stuff on that list, I was kidding myself because I knew I wouldn't be able to, I thought I wouldn't be able to get that ticked off in a year. But that just shows you, by telling someone, I was afraid not to be able to do it. But then I had my coaches to actually help me put a plan in place. And then what I didn't what I didn't give myself credit for to be able to achieve in a year, I achieved it within 5 days.
Yeah.
And that's like a light bulb went off. I was like, what else am I capable of doing here?
So sometimes that kind of pressure, that gentle pressure, is, you know, because you're like, fuck, right, I have a couple of days to do this, I better go hard at this. And it just eliminates distraction, like, you know what I mean? It eliminates any of that lack of productivity. I find that myself when I did that recipe book, like, you know, I shouldn't have done that in the time space I did it, but when I did do it, it just reminded me of college. Like, I remember college, I wouldn't do a tap until like 2 or 3 days before an exam, and I'd be like, right, open up an exam or anatomy paper and be like, fucking hell.
I used to wait until the week after something was due, and I'd ask someone from my class, oh, can I look at your essay to compare mine to yours? And I would hand theirs in again.
You're such a bollocks. I was actually, I think first year of college, because like I was trying to get my head around college, because I wasn't good in school, like, but I used to always, like, there was a lot of girls in my year, and so some of them I get on really well with. I'd be like, oh look, you know, we'd have to do like lab reports forever. I hadn't a fucking clue. Now, in fairness, I would just be like, let me see the structure and then I can do the rest myself. Like, but it's so funny. I used to always ring this one girl and I'd be like, well, what's the crack? How's things? How are you? Just a bit of sweet talk. And I'd be like, come here, any chance I can get a lab report? But one day I rang her when everyone was on the sesh. I didn't know. I was in the car. I was driving back from work. And the story goes, she was in the house. And she's like, all my mates are there. And I was like, look, this is Stuart. He's going to ask for a lab report. So everyone turned down the music or whatever. And I was like, well, how's things? How are you? Blah, blah, blah. And then just chit chat. And I was like, listen, any chance I could get a lab report? And all I could hear is, bah, you fucking gobshite. All the lads laughing at me. I was like, oh, fuck, I have to stop doing this. You got to do what you got to do to get through college. Like, where did you study?
UCD and Hibernia, and honest to God, like,
is Hibernia the 2-year online thing, or it's the postgrad for teachers basically, is it?
Yeah, but I would love to like get in contact with RTE and say I want to do a documentary on how you can actually beat the system without actually studying, going to the library, doing your own assignments, and you giving me out 2 degrees that can get me a job in the real world. Like, it's actually ridiculous. Like, bar my coaching certificates and what I hope to get a promotion in jiu-jitsu, if I get a promotion in jiu-jitsu, that's going to be the first thing that I ever had to really, really, really work for and earned. Because those degrees, like, I always, I'm a massive...
Did you not study?
No. I'm a massive fan of Frank Abagnale Jr. He's the movie Catch Me If You Can, Leonardo DiCaprio's based on him.
Yeah.
I think people like that who think outside the box are just unbelievable. And like situations and things that happen and you see in ways to manipulate the system, like it can be done. Like, you know, it was done. Now I hope that this doesn't come back to bite me in the ass and they take it back off me. But
we'll edit this one out. We'll edit this bit out. It's funny because I, like, after that story, like, I did feel a bit embarrassed that I was getting stuff off other people, and I was like, fuck, I just need to learn how to do this myself. And I did. I put the work in, but I ended up getting very obsessive with my marks, like, because I was dyslexic. I was constantly trying to battle to improve my grammar and what way I was structuring sentence. Like, with one thing people don't know about dyslexia is like having shit spellings, you can fix that with Grammarly. That's no problem. It's the way you structure things. You will literally have the answer at the bottom where it should be at the top. You know what I mean? The sentences will all be all over the fucking shop. So I really had to practice on that. But I got very obsessive with it. I got really, I get annoyed if I was getting under 60%, and I'd be going to the lecture like, what the fuck's that?
I would be way celebrating that.
No, man, because I was very diligent about getting a 2-1 in both degrees, because I had to get a 2-1 to go from Sligo to Coleraine to do the honours nutrition, and that's all I wanted to do. And then I was considering doing a PhD at the time, because it's very big up there. They push it and they pay for it as well. And I was like, fuck, you know, I wouldn't mind doing a PhD. Because I was, maybe unlike you, I was very into my academic studies. Like, I was literally in the library day after day, and I was getting immersed in reading papers and studies, and I quite enjoyed it. It was different. Like, I really enjoyed it.
I was doing that because I did not enjoy what I was doing.
Yeah,
you know yourself in the Irish system, you're kind of
you're pushed
into like, instead of showing there's paths and jobs that you can do that you're interested in.
Like, I saw the difference because I obviously studied in Sligo, and like, I was doing the health science and physiology degree, and like there were some times where it's just bullshit. Like you had lecturers coming in and just throwing random shit at you, or a heap of work that meant no sense. Like I remember we were doing human nutrition, and this lecturer who just came into the system, she was like, right, we're doing an assignment on foodborne bacteria. I was like, what has this got to do with human nutrition? That's food, that's health and safety, like that's food science. She's like, no, well, my background's food science. I was like, but this is human nutrition. Like this is the module we're taking is human nutrition, which is, you know, it's about ethnic backgrounds with health and certain types of food groups and stuff like that. Just bullshit. Like you're like, this doesn't make sense. But when I went to Coleraine, you didn't do as much work, but the work that you did had to be much higher quality. So like whatever you did, you better research it, you better cross-reference everything, and what you're talking about better make sense. Not only that, it better read correctly. Because I remember I handed up an assignment, I got 57%, and I'll never forget it. Like I went up to your man and I was like, "What? How can I do better with this?" And he was just like, basically, like, "Look, man, the answers are there, but it's just shit. Like the way it's written, it's terrible the way it's written." I was like, "All right, cool." And he was like, "You know, you need to restructure this, blah blah blah." I was like, "Cool." I just struggled a bit with dyslexia. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that." I was like, "Look, no fucking free passes. I want to get good at this." And he fucking set me down. He's like, "Cool, look, change this, change this, change this." And then every assignment, he would kind of pull me aside and go, "This is quite good. This needs improvement. This needs a bit of work." And that went from like say 57 to 62, 65, and then I got 70. I remember just being like, "Fucking hell! Like I'm getting good at this." Like, but it was taking me maybe 10 hours to do an assignment when I was taking the girl I was seeing at the time 2 hours. Like, it just depends who you are and what you want to do, you know. But yeah, I went off on a bit of a fucking tangent there.
That's 10 hours more than the lad who was getting 50 or 60 and who actually was capable of getting more. Like,
yeah. That's it.
Like when you were mentioning about lectures there, like, and you spoke earlier about like people can actually do whatever they want, like the free course. What's that called again? Springboard, I think it is, or Job Bridge. No, I think it's Springboard. So it's not like it's a free course, but so what that is in Ireland, now I could be wrong in saying this, but basically if you want to do a degree, right, say you want to upskill in like the biggest industries in Ireland are biopharmaceuticals, pharmaceuticals, medical device. They're the biggest manufacturers in the world. All the American companies are over there producing, because we have the workforce and we obviously have people that are well educated as well. So it's a good combination of both. So those sectors that might be struggling for people in certain areas that are maybe a little bit, I wouldn't say niche, but say process engineering would be a big role. And you would need to get people skilled in that area. So the government will go, right, cool, you can do a part-time course. It is a credit degree or credit the certificate in level 7, level 8, some even level 9. And I think they substitute, they pay 90% of it. And you have to pay like 400 quid or something like that. All you have to do is go to work. You'd obviously tell your employer, look, I'm doing this. They might be a bit lenient and they might give you, you know, well, it depends who they are, but you got to study in the evenings and you got to study on the weekends. That's it. Like my mate, he did a level 7 and then went working for a few years, and then he went and he did a level 9. So he jumped straight up to masters because he had a degree and he had experience. And that changed his life, like, you know what I mean? He went from a job he wasn't too fond of into a job that, and an area, like he's doing firmware engineering, which is a very niche area. Like it's fucking really hard to do. But he got his degree paid for to do that, and now he has an unreal job, you know. But that's the thing, like you have those free courses, you have YouTube, you have podcasts, you have everything now at your disposal. And like going back to Frank Abagnale Jr., when the FBI caught him, they knew how he forged the checks, they knew how he did X, Y, and Z, but they couldn't figure out how he went in and he successfully lectured a college lecture for like a year when he was like 17, and they're like, how did you do that? And he just said, I just stayed one chapter ahead of the class each week. It's like simple as that. Like you can literally, you know, not fake it till you make it, but be it till you see it.
Oh no, you 100% can. Like there's no doubt in my mind that you can, because like I've done it myself, like, you know what I mean? Like I think when I was in school, like, I mean, I was told leave, like when you hit third year leave, you're dyslexic so bad, like there's no point, like you just get, and this is during a time when getting an apprenticeship was a thing, you know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't like there's nothing wrong with having an apprenticeship, but this is like a time where there was two types of people that went to college and people who got apprenticeships, and obviously they were like, you need to be in that category, but you need to leave in third year as opposed to sixth year, because A, you're a nuisance, you're just annoying everyone, and then B, you're better off starting to work now. But I remember I used to work with my dad during like during the summers and stuff like that. Like hard job, working in the buildings, whatever, 15, 16 years of age. And like, even though everyone around me was telling me like, you know, you're better off leaving, I was like, I'm not that fucking stupid. Like, just because I can't read or struggle to read doesn't mean I'm stupid, like, you know. And I knew it. And yeah, it was just a matter of going back and proving people wrong, which I did. But when people are all, I suppose, when you're in an environment where people are telling you that, and if you don't have that mindset maybe that I had, like, look, I think I need to pull my socks up here and do a bit of work, I can do it. It can be very hard, like, when you're around that bubble of people that are like, no point in trying that, you're going to fail. Like, that's a hard situation to pull yourself out of. You know, but I think maybe what people don't understand is you can 100% put it. Like, if you can read and write, people don't understand there's not many jobs in this world where hard work will actually get you much further, like much further than anything else. Like, as I said, I did really well in my career in a really tough job, a very, very competitive environment, and it was just hard work. I was nowhere near intelligent as half the people that I worked with, but I was willing to stay late, I was willing to put in more hours, and I was willing to learn things that were a bit more difficult and just spend a bit more time in it. So it's like, if you do want to do it, you might have to give up a bit more time. Is that a big thing? No. Like, if you really want to get up to the next level in your life, just fucking do it. Like, put the work in and see what happens.
Yeah, and like, you're on about that bubble of people around you. Like, everyone's going to have their opinion, and that's molded or like built off their beliefs, their upbringings and whatever. And like, sometimes it could be people that you really like, people that you love, people that are close to you, your family. Like, you know, I'm sure if you told your parents, oh, I'm going to move to Abu Dhabi and I'm going to be online PT, I'm going to make an online cookbook, they'd be like, what the fuck? But that's just because they grew up never knowing what an online PT was or online cookbook, or this world did not exist. So like, their limiting beliefs, they have to pass it on to you as a protective measure. Let's keep them safe. But like, it can't hinder you going forward. Like, so that's why you kind of need to not get upset that maybe parents or friends kind of are giving you, say, what are you doing? And actually put yourself in an environment around like-minded people as much as possible. And, you know, that'll help you grow and quieten it down around people who might try and pull you down.
No, definitely. Like, I was kind of lucky where, like, I know I've definitely always kind of backed myself to some way, and my parents are quite good like that as well. They're like, he's kind of done a lot already, so maybe if this is his next step, just put a bit of belief into him. But I actually have, I don't know, have you seen your man Mullins? He's like similar to myself, but he's kind of blown up recently on social media. I remember looking at this lad's content ages ago. He's very good at like speaking to people about kind of the emotional side of what they go through with health and fitness, and maybe the disbeliefs they'd have about losing weight. He had a bit of weight when he was young and he lost it himself. And he went on, I think he did like sports science, and now he's a PT. He knows his shit, like. But I remember him grinding at social media at the same time I was doing it. And like, you have to do a lot of cringy shit when you're doing that. You know what I mean? You have to pull out the camera in places that you don't want to do it, and then you have to put it online. And what people don't realise is, and this is fucking Irish culture again, like, when you are doing it at the very start, everyone's going to laugh at you. Like, look at that fucking gobshite putting his videos. You see his videos.
Oh, sure, I remember coming home and some lad, he was drunk, he sat in the back of the car and he was like, Tarek, can go over and control their mind. I was like, yeah, fucking...
That's pure Donegal slang.
And like, then, you know, like, like, then you know, you be talking about, say, like I know, like, these terms, like limiting beliefs and reframing, that's very wishy-washy, even to me. Like, so as time progresses and I get more comfortable, and I'm going to try and rephrase or whatever the way it is, but like, I walk into a pub at home, can't wait to get into a bar with a few mates, and I thought you don't drink anymore. Why? Because you'll be putting stuff up online. I'm like, Jesus, I didn't know you had to give up drink to put stuff up online.
It is sad. Kind of where I was getting at with Mullins was, I remember when he's like at 500k followers now, and he was like, it's so funny because when I started this, the amount of people that laughed at me doing this, and now they want to talk to me. You know what I mean? And he doesn't hold a grudge against it, but he's kind of like, what he's trying to say to people is, if you feel like people are going to laugh at you, like, that is going to happen. Like, you're going to do something that's a bit out of the norm here. It's a bit out of the bubble, but it shouldn't stop you from going to chase whatever it is that you're trying to chase.
Don't judge what you don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, understand it first and then have your kind of educated opinion on it.
I think though, and this is like probably a bit of a culture thing, but people are afraid to try things. Like, you know what I mean? Don't be afraid to fucking try things, because no matter what you do, no matter what it is, someone is always going to have something to say. They're going to disagree with it in some way, shape or form, and they're going to try and bring it down a peg or two. I love meeting those type of people. I love it because I thrive off it, but not everyone does. But it shouldn't stop you from being like, oh, fuck, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do it, because that's what happens. People do want to try different things, but they feel like they're being judged from all angles. It's like, you know, the person that's judging you, understand that they're probably just not that happy with themselves. They're probably stuck in a situation and they're looking at you trying to do something else, and that's annoying them deep down inside. Like,
well, look at boxers. Like, boxers are obviously, they always call out whoever has the belt. They're never calling out or talking shit about people beneath them. They're only calling out people who are above them because they want that belt.
Yeah.
That's the kind of way I look at it in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's kind of what my mentality was. I remember when I was getting into it, I was looking at the lads who were above, and I was like, look, that's my marker. That's where I need to get. Like, you don't, those that are not doing it, just leave them be.
But like, you know yourself, like, if you want to do something, you need to look at what resources you have internally or externally. So like, let's say I want to be a PT. Like, am I going to sit here and begrudge you and bitch about you and bitch about your reels? Or am I going to go, here, I have his number, I could text him.
Yeah.
Where did he get his course? How did he start his reels? What camera does he use? And you'll be more than happy to help. Do you know?
100%. Man.
And if you're not, I just go to the next person. So then you actually have a resource rather than pushing yourself away from that negativity bias.
It's something like I have generally gone out of my way for a lot of people. Like, I remember when Mullins wasn't getting the traction that I felt like he deserved, and I remember just sending him a voice note like, keep going, man, like, it's gonna blow for you. It just might take a bit longer, because some people it happens a little bit quicker than others. And now he's like, at that time I think he had like 5,000 followers. I had 100,000. Now he has 500,000 followers. You know what I mean? And it's just like giving some that little bit of support. Listen, it's good. We're both in the same game here, and I can see maybe what other people are just not seeing yet, and it's good. It'll get there. And it blew for him like that as well. There's other lads I know who are blowing up, and they're maybe struggling with the business side of it. And I'm kind of at the stage now where I'm still working it out for myself, but I know a little bit more than what they don't know. So it's like, look, we'll jump on a call. I'm going to tell you what to do for the next half an hour, and we'll move it on from there. Give people your time, help them out. It'll always come back and
aye, and that goes back to your style. Like, I know, like, I'm coaching a men's coach now, and someone actually pulled me up because don't be giving him any more information, or don't. And I was like, why not? And that goes back to Joe Rogan. Like, there's enough success to go around for everyone. Like, and just help everyone around, and it'll come around and help you
100%. Like, I think if you like, look, there's two types of people. You give someone half an hour of your time, they'll appreciate it. Maybe there's some people that might just say, whatever. I think those people that kind of are a bit self-centered, when you do give them a bit of your time and they don't give anything back in return, that doesn't last long. People see through that. You might have success for a small period of time, but people will eventually see through that. No one wants to be around a prick like that. You know what I mean? No one does. Like, you want to be around someone who goes, look, that person actually helped me. Like, you know, now I might look for a favour in return. You'll help me. You know what I mean? That's how the world works. Like, instead of begrudging people or looking down on people, I have no time for that. I seriously have no time for that. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense, because you were always at a point where, you know, you had to start off and you had to learn. Yeah,
I think we had that conversation in the car. Do you just kind of drop your values, or what was the word I used in the car? Or do you stick to your guns and actually stick to your beliefs, or do you sell yourself out? It was sell yourself out that I was going on. Like, do you do that for that bit of recognition, or do you hold to your guns? And I think it's sticking to your guns and not.
Like we all have our own values at the end of the day, and those values are very, very important. You know what I mean? Like, your values are a lot more important than people think. I know from being in a job where my values were very much under threat, like, as in who I thought as a person and what a person should be. I was in a job where I felt like I was going completely against my values. I was like, this is not me. I'm not that type of person. I don't mind helping people. I don't mind giving people a bit of my time. And when you start going against that, you know what I mean? You start to kind of feel like I'm not myself here anymore. You know what I mean? These things are important to me. Within reason, like, I think when in business, obviously you gotta make a bit of dough. You gotta make a bit of money. But if you can help someone and it's not going to eat into too much of your time, just fucking do it. Like, or if I find that someone wants to come onto the program and finance is an issue, I always say to them, like, look, number one, if you can't afford it, there's no point in coming on, because it's going to cause friction between me and you, and I just don't want that. Number two, if you can afford it but now is not the right time, we can do a little deposit, and then when you're in a better financial position, we can start now and you can sort me out later. You know,
I like to have that. Like, I've a 4-session grace period, so that can be 2 to 3 months depending on how long those
like
sessions
a guarantee,
last.
like if they don't like it, yeah.
Because like for me, it's not about that one session; it's about that regular conversation every day, every second day, and that over and back through those 2 months.
Yeah.
And if you turn around to me and say, "Listen, Jonathan, this is not for me, or I'm not getting anything out of it," well, you get your full investment back, and then vice versa. If I see someone's not putting in the work, to get their full investment back. So the worst case scenario, someone got 2 months coaching, I got 2 months maybe practice, or we both learned some kind of lesson here, and there's no financial loss on either end. So I kind of like I kind of like that. So there's that kind of safety blanket on both sides.
Yeah, it's good to give a guarantee, like, you know, maybe just to, like, one thing I do say to people is, like, you do have to put some skin in the game. You have to make a bit of an investment. And if you've done that, then I'm happy enough to give you a guarantee for a month. And if you don't like it, you've put some skin in the game, you didn't like it, here's your funds back. But 9 times out of 10, if I think the client is a good fit for me and I know I can help them, I know after a month there's not going to be an issue. You know what I mean? It's going to be fine. You're going to move on.
You can be a good judge of character as well, you know?
Yeah, look, you got to take the hit sometimes. You know, it depends. As I said, that does come down to your values and you as an individual. Like, I've had mentors like, don't do that. I'm like, I'm going to do what I want to do. You know what I mean? And I've had friends who have had mentors and they said, oh, I shouldn't go down to this and this. I'm like, you've no clients. Like, you have to make money. Start taking in clients. Start making a bit of money, helping people. Because at the start, it's not great. You know, no one has a start where they're getting loads of money. You're not getting what you deserve, but you got to put into work, get some social proof, and prove to everyone I'm the right person here. You know.
Like, you're talking about skin in the game there. See, if I go back to that dopamine challenge I did in January. So like 90 plus people signed up, right? And this is like the 3rd or 4th time we've ran this, and continuously looking for feedback off people, how we can make the less notifications in the group, how to make it more user friendly. But one thing that always stuck in my head was there's always a massive dropout. Now this year I asked everyone to write down your why. Why are you doing this challenge? Because it's actually very difficult. 1 workout a day, no junk food, no alcohol, read 1 chapter of a book, 1 random act of kindness. To tick those things off every day is quite hard. So anyone who finished it this year were the only people who wrote down why they were doing it. So that just shows you knowing your why is good. But there was a massive drop off, and I know for a fact that whoever finished it, that would have been multiplied 2 or 3x if there was a €10 towards charity, if there was some kind of admission fee, because then you'd be like, well, hold on, I actually gave to be here, so I'm going to get my worth, rather than, sure, it's only a WhatsApp, I'll just leave the WhatsApp group, who cares, what's he going to say about that?
I think it's important to put skin in the game, definitely, 100%, and your why there as well. Like, I know, once again, that might sound a bit wishy-washy to some people, but if you don't understand why you're doing something, and it has to mean something, it can't just be bullshit, like, you know what I mean, it has to actually, okay, this is something I really, really need to sort out, whatever it is that you're trying to work out. When you understand that, you'll do it. Like, and this is very simple. Like, why do you go to college for 3 or 4 years? Because you're going to get a degree and get a better job. You know what I mean? That's your why. You don't really give a fuck about studying. Like, you obviously the experience, X, Y, and Z. It's like, why do you go to work? Well, if you don't go to work, you don't make money. If you don't make money, you don't have a life. So why work harder? You know what I mean? I think it's one thing that people always fail to do, and I see this with, obviously, in the world of people trying to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? I just want to lose weight, improve my health. Yeah, but that's bullshit. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah,
you really need, like, there's...
It's something more. Like, you want to improve your overall appearance, your body composition, your self-confidence, or your confidence, self-esteem. These things are important. You know what I mean?
You want to be able to run around with your kids, or be fit to go out with your friends, or something like that. Like, there's ways to find out your why and get deep into what your actual why is. And like, I think one of the things I said to you, and I say to a lot of people, like, you can have whys for everything. You'll have a why for doing this recording, you'll have a why for going for a run later, you'll have a why for going to the cinema with the woman, different whys. But do you know the way when you get up in the morning and I'll just roll over and I'll hit snooze. If whatever why you have for getting up in the morning is like literally staring you at the face when you get up in the morning, there's no hope in hell that you're going to roll over on that and let
100%.
yourself down there. And that's what happens with a lot of people. Like when it comes to confidence, they'll say, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, do an extra hour study because that'll allow me to make more income for my family, whatever. And then 6 o'clock comes, do you know what, I have an hour later, I'll just do that. They're not showing up for themselves. So they're losing trust in themselves. And that, as a result of that, they're going to lose confidence in themselves in other areas of their life. So you can get me on Instagram, Jonathan Harkin, mindset coach, even though that name could change.
Guru.
And coming very, very soon in the next 5 to 6 weeks, jonathanharkin.com website is being launched. It's ready, nearly ready to rock. So I'm looking forward to having that, and that'll be the main platform to get everything on then.
Deadly stuff. Yeah, and then I suppose for myself, my name is actually The Coin Method on Instagram. And like yourself, I do have a website coming, but there's still a little bit of work coming with that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully we'll do this again, and because I actually really enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty good. Like, we'll crack on.